What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Barbells and Bangers. Before we get in today's episode, let me just remind you to check out WELLBEING Brewing. This is a non-alcoholic beer. It is my favorite non-alcoholic beer. So if you're looking for something to drink this summer besides soda, besides water, and you don't drink alcohol, check out WELLBEING non-alcoholic beer. It is delicious. And use my code BREECKERT for 10% off your purchase of $10 or more. Also, check out JOCKO Fuel. I am now partnered with JOCKO Fuel, as I've said in the last couple episodes, but I just got their pre-workout, which I'm really excited to try, the green apple. So if you're interested in any type of supplements like energy drinks, protein shakes, pre-workout like I've got here, which I'll do a review on this soon on my YouTube channel. But if you're into anything like that, then check out JOCKO Fuel, and you can use my code BREBRE and you will get 10% off. You can also use that code on Origin as well, which is where you can find clothing that's made in the USA, and they also make jiu-jitsu gis and rash guards. So check it out, check it out, check it out. And plus, Jocko Willink is freaking awesome. So anyways, I am so excited today because I have a special guest, and I've had this guest on before. So this isn't a new guest that I have on, but the first episode that we did was so good that I rewatched it recently, and I was like, you know what? I really want to get him on again because it was such a good conversation and I learned so much from it. And I have so many more questions now since it's been, I think, a few months since we did that episode. I believe it was in March, maybe February or March, somewhere around there that we did that episode. So now it's been a little bit of time and I have so many more questions and just things that I want to discuss. So I'm so excited. My guest today is a weight loss coach. So he specializes in health and fitness for men who want to lose 50 pounds or more. So that is his specialty. He himself has been on a journey with weight loss, and he lost over 100 pounds multiple times. So he's got a very inspiring story. He definitely knows what he's talking about. And one thing that I really admire about him is that he really focuses on helping his clients, whether than making a profit off of them or whatever. Like, I can tell that this is just really something he's passionate about and something that he gets a lot of fulfillment from doing. So I want to welcome you all. Zachary Allen, let's bring him on. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
I can.
Fantastic.
I have like anxiety now about technology failing on me after what I dealt with today. I'm like, please, can this just work? Like, can technology just be on my side today?
Man, I spent like 4 or 5 hours the other day trying to just get one little thing figured out on this microphone so that like it just wasn't quite perfect. So I know the feeling. I know the feeling of trying to get everything right there.
Well, and it's so cool too, because like the last time you were on, we both were like just using like our webcam, I think. And now look where we've gotten.
Yeah.
Look at the progress we've made.
I know.
This is great. We're in
Seriously.
HD.
Yeah, it's been something I've been working on. And like I was originally recording everything just on an iPhone, syncing it up with my computer, putting everything in Audition, recording the audio separately. And I think I'm just going to go out and actually buy like separate cameras now, SD cards, and just go legit because it's.
Oh yeah. I'm already
might be
thinking
easier.
about getting a new camera, like not right now, but like probably before the end of the year. Cause I'm like, I'm just, yeah, I like learning. Every time I like keep learning more and more about it and keep improving, then I'm like, oh, now I can actually think of ways that I can improve this by getting a nicer camera or getting a better microphone or just kind of educating myself on different stuff, because this is all so new to me. This is like
Yeah.
I'm technology challenged. I think I'm trying to say.
I get you. Yeah, I've been kind of waiting. I had a name in mind for my podcast, but the rights for it weren't up until this week. So I
Oh,
already just bought
really?
them and I
Oh,
bought the
nice.
website and everything. So good to go. So Untitled Podcast is now mine.
Really? So that's actually the name of it?
Yeah, it'll be
Okay.
Untitled.
I was wondering, I was like, okay, I feel like that's either the name of the podcast or he's just putting that there because he doesn't have a name for it yet. But I was like,
Yeah,
that might
that
be
would.
the name of the podcast, which I love.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah, yeah. So when I saw that there was a podcast called the Untitled Podcast, I started doing research, and they'd been inactive since July of last year, and they didn't end up buying the rights to the website anymore. So I bought untitledthepodcast.com
Wow.
and everything. So
That's awesome.
it's been a little bit, but soon. I've already got my first episode recorded. I'm just like I'm being so picky on everything that I put into it. So I keep going through and re-listening to it, and I'm like, all right, is this good enough to be an episode? But I think I just need to release it. And so I think I'm going to do that either tomorrow or Wednesday, try to get it up at least through RSS feed, and then I'll redo my website to be an RSS feed. So we'll see how it goes. I have
Nice.
no idea what I'm doing. It's just like every time I think of something, I spend 30 hours on YouTube trying to figure it out and then just go, all right, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you probably know more about it by now than I do, actually. So I think you're doing
We're,
okay.
we're figuring it out together.
Yeah, it's been a journey. And I think I'm obviously I don't like dealing with like the technology frustrations and all that stuff, but I do
Yeah.
like the fact that I've learned it like from the beginning, like from scratch and did it
Yeah.
all myself. Because then once I do get to the point where I can like hire somebody to edit my stuff or like hire
Yeah.
somebody to film it, then I'll appreciate it so much more because I've
Oh,
done
yeah.
it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the worst and best decisions I ever did was hire a business coach for a period of time. And he taught me, he goes, you can't sub out something that you don't know how to do yourself. So a big
Yes.
part of it is like learning how to do it myself so that I know what to tell the person. Like, this is what I want. I need you to do it this way. So we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Did you watch the fights last night?
So I didn't catch much of the prelims because we took Teddy to this like dinosaur experience thing, but I caught the full main card when I got home. Uh Incredible. I had kind of wrote down a few things on my phone of like my fight predictions of what I thought would happen. I thought Oliveira would win. But I thought there was basically two options. If it didn't close out in the first two rounds, Dariush would win by decision because I thought he was durable, but you got to be able to outlast. That was the crazy thing. Man, people are so scared of his grappling, Charles, that they totally forget his freaking hands are made of concrete and he just drops people. He must hit so much harder than anybody thinks he hits in that division because every single fighter gets dropped by him. Gaethje, Poirier, Chandler. I mean, the only one who looked durable against him was Mahashev. So I don't know. And
Yeah.
then Nunes retiring. I don't see that sticking around if Pena keeps running her mouth because I think but she might do what no
I think
man
that's
has
what
been able to
everybody's
do.
hoping for.
Hey, I think because she is a woman, I think she has the ability to do something that no man has been able to do, which is retire at the top. Because every man's ego gets in his way, and he's like, "No, I'm going to smash Pena." Like that's what a man would think if they were in that position. But it's like, no, you got nothing else to prove.
Yeah.
We all know you're better than her.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
incredible. So we'll see.
Oh, she's a legend. And I actually do kind of hope that she really is retiring because like you said, I like to see them retiring like on top. And the only
Yeah.
person that really did that was Habib, but Habib didn't run through the division the same way that Amanda did. I would say he had a more perfect career, obviously, because he was undefeated. But Amanda, she fought everyone. Like she was so much better than everyone. And
In two
that's what was just,
divisions.
yeah. Yeah. And everybody's like, oh, well, 145 is a weak division. It's like, whatever. Well, you could argue the same thing about heavyweight. You could argue the same thing about flyweight. You could argue the same thing about multiple divisions, but it's still insanely impressive what she did, and just what she's done for women's MMA too. I mean,
Yeah.
she even said like, because she started like when it was really not, it was kind of taboo for women to do MMA. And she was talking about that.
Yeah.
Like when she started training, they were like, what are you doing here? Like at the gym. And, like she didn't get a lot of
Yeah.
respect. And she still, I mean, I still see, oh God, I
Yeah.
try not to look at comments about women's MMA because it's just like, oh my God, these people.
I think I just don't think that the average human being understands that Amanda Nunes could still probably beat 90% of the men on this man, 90% of the men on the planet in a
Yeah.
fight, like regardless of weight or size, because she's extremely skilled. And what you saw was an extremely skilled, bigger fighter get picked apart for 5 rounds. She landed a clean left hook in the first round on a counter, and that was it. That was it. There was nothing else. So yeah, Amanda Nunes, people want to say, oh, she's the greatest female fighter of all time, but statistically, she's up there with some of the greatest fighters of all time, regardless of gender, regardless of anything. Like
Yeah.
she deserves a spot on the Mount Rushmore of UFC.
Oh yeah.
If they were to put one up today, Amanda Nunes needs to be there.
Yeah, well, she's headlined 2 pay-per-views that did over 1 million pay-per-view buys. Like people forget that.
Yeah.
And she's only had like I think maybe 5 or 6 pay-per-views that she headlined, but to have 2 of them go over 1 million, I mean that's pretty insane. So to say she's not a draw, I'm like, you guys are crazy. Everybody loves watching Amanda Nunes because she's so good. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I was like, okay, maybe Aldana could shock the world and knock her out or catch her or whatever. But back in my mind, I'm like, it's Amanda Nunes. She's gonna win.
Yeah. Yeah, like it was almost like Aldana didn't go into the fight with the intention of winning. It was just like from the moment it started, it's like my goal is just to be in this fight for 5 rounds. Like she did not come out of that high guard position at all until maybe partway through the 4th round or 5th round, where she was just like, well, I'm already down 3 rounds and I've lost this 4th round pretty much because I'm getting mauled.
Yeah.
So she throws a little bit, but that was you know what that fight reminded me of is when Volkanovski fought Korean Zombie, and you're just like watching the fight and it just looks so one-sided. It didn't look fair. And I was hopeful, like I was hopeful for a good fight, and I'm glad that I think she could have ended that fight at different times, but it was almost like she wanted to put in the full 25 to finish out her career.
Yep.
I don't know. It was great. And Charles was great.
Yeah.
It's really sad to see that Beneil doesn't get, I don't know. Part of me wants to see a guy like Beneil do well and like, see a title fight. But after seeing that, it's like, if he can't get past Charles, what's he going to do to Makhachev?
Yeah. And it makes you wonder, like, what does the rematch look like? Because we saw Islam almost got beat by a featherweight, a smaller guy. So if that Charles Oliveira shows up in the rematch, then we might see another title run for Charles, and that would be awesome.
Yeah. Let me tell you, when I was watching that last night, one of my initial thoughts was, I wonder how Volk would do against Charles. Like,
yeah, because that would be interesting too. And I think that's the move for Volkanovski. If he beats Yair, then I think the next logical move for him would be to just move up to lightweight, because I mean he's already fought Max Holloway 10,000 times, and Arnold Allen couldn't beat Max Holloway, so it's like, really, what does he need to do in 145? So I think going to 155 would probably be smart, because then he could fight Charles. If Charles is champion, he could fight Islam again. That would be fun. So we'll see what happens.
It genuinely stinks when you see like some of these almost gatekeepers in in certain divisions where you see there are so many talented fighters in there, but just not as good as the gatekeeper. Like,
yep. Like Robert Whitaker. He's kind of the same way.
Yeah. In as much as I don't like him, Colby Covington, like, and
Yeah.
we'll see how he does. We'll see how he does against Leon, but Leon kind of looked like how Charles looked coming with this fight. Like, he looked like he was on a different level in that second Usman fight. So
yes,
I fingers crossed. I hope Leon beats the snot out of him.
I do too. And I'm wondering if Usman is still as good as he always has been. Because if the same Usman that knocked out Gilbert Burns was fighting Leon Edwards and Leon Edwards won, then Leon Edwards is going to beat Colby Covington.
Yes.
But it makes me wonder too, like, is Usman just like, I mean, his knees are done. Like, his knees are so messed up. So I'm like, does that have something to do with it? I'm like, I don't know. So it's still, there's still a little bit of mystery there. But it'll be interesting to see, because they haven't fought before, have they? Leon and Colby?
Not. I'm sitting here racking my brain.
I know. I'm like trying to remember.
They have. So
I don't think they have. I know he's fought Masvidal. He's fought Usman, and he fought Burns.
He sat
right?
out for he might have. I'm trying to remember. He sat out for a really long time.
I'm gonna look it up.
He sat out for a long time, and his first fight back was against Bilal Muhammad, and he got no contested for an eye poke.
That was Leon, right?
Yeah, that was Leon's first fight back. He got no contested. He came in at like 8. I think he was ranked 8th in the division. Eye poke, comes back, fights Nate Diaz or Nick Diaz.
Nate Diaz.
Nick?
Yeah, Colby
Nick
has
Nate?
not. It was Nate. Colby hasn't fought Edwards.
Yeah,
so
and then
that'll be interesting.
I mean, Colby hasn't fought in a while either.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole thing of the drama with him and Street Jesus still. So
oh my gosh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just excited when I saw that there was 16 weeks of straight MMA cards. So that made me happy to see that there is a UFC card every weekend for almost 4 months. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. It makes I'm gonna be busy.
Yeah, you're gonna have to put out a double podcast every week.
I know. Well, that's what I've been doing for the last few weeks. Yeah, I do the MMA one and I do this one. So that's what I was recording before this, where I had all the issues.
Dang.
Yeah, and
it's rough.
I didn't know if the file was recovered until like an hour later. So I just had to like assume that I have to re-record the whole thing. But then I found the file and it was like 30 minutes of it was recorded. So I'm like, okay, well, at least I have something. But yeah, frustrating. Technology.
I get you. Yeah, the first podcast I tried to record, my video cut off at like 27 minutes and my audio kept going. And I was just so bummed out that I just scrapped the whole thing. I just deleted it all. I was like, I'm over it. And then it took me like 3 weeks to try it again.
Yeah, that's the worst. Oh, it's so annoying. But yeah, and no, I'm excited to have you back on because I watched the last episode again like pretty recently. I want to say like a week ago or something, or a couple weeks ago. And I'm like, I want to kind of like reopen that conversation because now that it's been a while, like I have more questions, I guess, of like just things that I want to talk about. I don't know if I'm not necessarily questions, but maybe like topics. I'm like, oh, we should have talked about this. We should have talked about this. And we just never got around to it. But you know, that was our first time ever talking. And this is only our second time talking. And since then, like we followed each other on social media. So we kind of have like, you've been seeing my content. And so so it's cool to bring you on again, and obviously we have much better technology now. So that's fun. But I kind of wanted to kind of pick your brain on, you mentioned before on the last episode, you mentioned like your focus on changing people's habits, and that's kind of your biggest thing with being able to create real change with people so they can lose weight or so they can hit whatever their goal is. So I wanted to talk about that and like kind of like just mindset and things like that. What to you is like how do you encourage people to create habits or break habits? Like I guess that's kind of a broad question, but wherever you want to start with that.
Yeah. It's a good question though. Habits I have so when I what I did for me, I've realized was great for me, and it doesn't necessarily work for everybody, but the principles, like the bones of it, were based on habit change, habit formation. Didn't even realize I was doing this, but really it had to start with first looking at what do I do well? What do I do poorly? Like, what are my tendencies as a human being, my flaws essentially, and are they changeable? So when I try to sit down and talk to somebody and figure out like what exactly the issue is, I have to ask them a lot of questions and try to get to the bottom of what exactly is the inward problem. Because for me specifically, I try to work with people who have a minimum of 50 plus pounds to lose. So they're in a pretty big hole, because I believe that if you have 50 plus pounds to lose, it's bigger than like, hey, I just got a little bit lazy, or I put on the COVID-20 or whatever it is. Or if you got 50 plus pounds to lose, more than likely it's a outward manifestation of an inward problem. And we have to figure out what that inward problem is that is manifesting itself, that you're coping with food and binge watching television or not exercising, whatever it is, and try to get in there and create the smallest form of change possible that points someone in the right direction that can be replicated as often as possible. And I think where a lot of people initially screw themselves over is by not committing to doing something every single day. So I would much rather get somebody to start the habit of walking 10 minutes a day every single day, 7 days a week, versus walking 30 minutes every other day or 3 days a week, because you're already planning in some sort of dysfunction into that routine. And really, it's about getting someone into a routine. So we pick something that we can focus on, start to see progress in it, and then we build on it. So every 3 to 4 weeks, we start adding on to this and building out off of this one thing. So if we can establish a baseline of 10 minutes of exercise a day, we can expand on that. We can expand to 15, 20, 25, 30, and keep building off it, because we at least know that we've set aside a period of our day where exercise is required for part of our day. And when you are starting a routine, when you're trying to get into this, the habit is it has to be done consistently over and over again. And I think the best way to do that is just starting with something small. Now, that's strictly just an exercise thing, but when it comes to nutritional things, it's also looking at those nutritional habits and trying to kind of figure out, where do you tend to go off the rails? And it's more about kind of creating some boundaries with yourself, that it's like, when I run into this wall, I don't just move it out of the way or go around it. It's like, no, that's a hard wall. We need to pull back. We need to reassess. And a lot of that just starts with like knowing what to track per the individual. And sometimes that's as easy as like some basic things. And sometimes you really got to figure that out. Like, it takes some time. And that comes from having an open relationship with somebody and being able to be vulnerable with them and tell them what you're struggling with or what you struggled with, so that they will open back up with you and tell you the truth, rather than hide in embarrassment and be like, I don't want to tell Zach that every single day I stop by the Casey's or the stop by Quick Trip and slam 2 taquitos on the way home or something like that. And that's embarrassing to them. But it's like, if I can get them to open up about that, then we can start to work on how do we change that habit, because that's really what that is.
Yeah, I think that is very similar to how I actually got back into fitness. Because for a while, So there was like a while that I was really consistent, and I was going, like, I was waking up at like 4 in the morning, and like I made sure to go to the gym pretty much every single day, at least 6 days a week. So I was super, super consistent. And then when I got sick, that was when I kind of had that time where I just completely got out of my routine. I mean, I physically just like didn't have the energy to do it. So
Yeah.
that was how I had to start. And if I would have tried to go like balls to the wall and like just super intense workout and lifting all this weight and doing crazy stuff, if I would have done that my first time back, I probably wouldn't have stuck with it because I would have been so sore and I would have been just exhausted. And I got diagnosed with lupus shortly before that. So
Mm.
that would have probably thrown my central nervous system like all out of whack. So, and
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that at the time. My brain told me like, you need to get back into working out. But you can't do it right now, but you got to do something. So what can you do? Okay, well, let me just go to the gym. And I just would go there, and I didn't even like plan like what I was going to do. Sometimes I would just stretch. Sometimes I would just walk on the treadmill. But like first time there, I just walked on the treadmill for like 10 minutes. I'm like, I just need to physically go here to get in the habit of going here. It doesn't matter what
Yes.
I do because I'm not trying to lose weight. I'm not trying to get any kind of instant result. I'm just trying to get myself back to being healthy because I knew that if I could get my health and fitness in check, that I could probably manage the illness a lot better.
Oh
Just
yeah.
based off what I know from, and thank God at the time I was listening to like Andrew Huberman and all these like Joe Rogan's podcast and all these like science people. Thank God I was, because it really helped me, because I knew that if I take care of my body and if I put the right food in my body, that any kind of illness or anything is less likely to get worse or show symptoms. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to use, the logic that I know and slowly but surely get back into my routine, and cleaned up my diet quite a bit too. And
Yeah.
slowed down. I didn't go out nearly as much after that, because I was like, yeah, I can't be putting really much bad things into my body. And for most people, they can, and they're fine. But
Yeah.
from what I've seen, most of the time when you consistently have a bad diet or bad habits, eventually it catches up to you.
Yeah. I, there's a couple of things that you made me think of in there, and one of the most prevalent one is just off of what you just said of like people can eat what they want and they feel fine. And I think that so many people are used to feeling like crap all the time that they don't know what it's like when you actually feel great. And they don't know what it's like when you actually get into a routine and start performing at an excellent level, because it's hard. Like that, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And that's the hardest thing for most people to understand, is that it will, like, that first couple weeks are going to suck. Like every muscle in your body is going to be sore regardless of how little you do, because it's so outside of what your muscles are used to. It's so outside of what your brain pattern is. Like your brain wants to regulate things for the least energy cost possible. So whatever it can handle in the basal ganglia, it's going to, because that's cheap. It's this little primitive thing in the middle of our brain. And all it basically says is go or no go. And if it starts to recognize patterns that are go patterns, it's going to create like a super highway to that. So when you're bucking that system, and every time you want to get on that, think about it like getting on a highway. It's like driving to work. You don't even have to think about it. It just happens. So it's like taking a new route to work every single day. You have to get used to it. You have to get used to this new thing mentally. Then you have to get used to this new thing physically. And once you get out of that 2 to 3 week slump, what your body does is it starts saying, hey, this person is requiring now 20% extra energy in order for us to perform, but we feel great. So we're going to start producing extra energy with that in mind, that it's going to be used. So it's like people often are like, I don't have the energy. I'm too tired to go work out. And it's like, I promise you, if you start working out, your body will make more energy and you will have plenty of energy to do it. It makes no sense, but all of these little things, these little barriers that keep people out of it, they're very easy to kick down if you can just be consistent and disciplined for 2 to 3 weeks. I promise you it gets better. And it bums me out when people don't make it out of that because the negative self-talk in their head or whatever it is prevents them from moving forward. They give up before they really get started because there's so much negativity in their head about past experiences or something somebody said to them, past trauma, whatever it is. And it's like, let me tell you, you are just trust me. Just trust me. But it's really hard to get people to trust you when they don't know you that well. So a big part of it is just being vulnerable and letting people know, like, hey, this is going to be good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's always been a big thing for me too. And I guess why I've never had a personal trainer. I've always gotten my personal training from YouTube. So I just, well, first of all, I thought it was so expensive. So that was like always a barrier for me. And I just I've never, up until like the last 4 years or so, I never was able to be like really consistent with my fitness. Like there would be a couple months I'd be consistent, but like I'd always fall out of it. And I don't know, I guess I didn't have a strong enough why for a long time. And I think whenever I started to see people I know getting sick or having, whether it be heart attack, stroke, or whatever it is, seeing what the results are of not taking care of your body, that's really what motivated me to do it and to stay consistent with it. So I think that was really important for me. And I think getting back to my point, why I've never really had a personal trainer is because I never like felt like I could find one that was like me, that would understand me. And there probably was a trainer out there that could, but I always had that kind of thought in my head that like they're not going to understand me. Like, like if I skip a day of working out because I'm having anxiety or because I'm depressed and I couldn't get out of bed, like they're not going to understand, because for so long, like I battled with my mental health and I never really was able to get over that. But then now looking back on it, I'm like, man, if I would have gotten a trainer, I think they really could have helped me deal with that, because having somebody to hold me accountable and kind of push me a little bit would have been nice. But there is that trust factor, because if I didn't trust them and they were my trainer, then I would probably have a hard time taking their advice.
Yeah.
Or if I didn't think that they were a good, genuine person, I think that's important too. I think, being a good person, not only as a trainer, but also like in your regular life, and just being positive and not being like, oh, you need to lift heavier weight, that's too light, like those kind of trainers. They're like, do more push-ups, keep going, like they're like drill sergeants. I would not have done well with somebody like that. But I think that's why now social media has changed fitness so much, because you can kind of show people who you are before they decide to go with you. And that's kind of what you're doing right now. You're kind of diving into that. And I think that's really going to help you, because there is that trust factor. And if I don't like the person that's training me, it's going to be really tough for me to stay consistent and be motivated. So yeah, it's important. It's so important. And the fact that you've gone through it too, that's really important. And not a lot of people have. Not a lot of trainer, to that extent, I guess, of not only losing over 100 pounds once, but multiple times, and being able to speak to it. That's huge.
Yeah, it's a little bit embarrassing, but I like to make sure that people understand that, like, I have failed more times than I have succeeded when it has come to weight loss. And the reason I can say that is because I've tried to lose weight tons of times, and only one time did it actually stick and stay off. And um, I would like to give credit where credit is due, and I totally forget this guy's name, but he's part of Russell Brunson's ClickFunnels people. His name's like Garrett. I think his name is Garrett White. And I heard Garrett White give this speech one time that just freaking blew my tits off. He gets up there and he's yelling into the microphone and he's getting after it. He's getting everyone pumped up. And at the very end, his close. And let me tell you, this close he's Russell Brunson's closer. Now, Russell Brunson runs a marketing thing called ClickFunnels. For those of you who are not familiar with it, it's a system designed to bring people into your value ladder of what he calls it. Now, I knew nothing about this. I was at this convention because my cousin's like, hey, you want to go to Nashville with me? And I'm like, sure, why not?
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
no money. I was still in the middle of my weight loss. I was down like 150 pounds. So I still ended up needing to lose like another 30 or so. But he gets up there and he starts telling this story about these warriors. And I forget what part of history they were from. Probably should remember this. But he talks about when they would arrive at shore to go conquer a territory, they would burn their boats because there was only one option, and that was conquer or die. Really, like, we are going to conquer this nation or we're going to die trying, because the boats are burned and we're not going back. And that was the mindset that when things finally flipped for me, that like, I am going to spend the rest of my life getting myself healthy or I will die trying. And that came from going to a doctor and my blood pressure being through the roof, being pre-diabetic, dealing with multiple gut and intestinal issues from eating. On top of that, like suffering from depression and anxiety, using drugs to cope. And like, I asked the doctor straight up, I go, if I do nothing and I just continue with where I'm at, what's my best case scenario? And he's like, dead by 50, probably diabetes within the next 5 years, more than likely it, like, you'll be on insulin the rest of your life. I was like, okay. And he's like, you should be on insulin right now. You should be on a CPAP machine right now. You should be on blood thinners and you should be on stuff for your cholesterol. And I go, well, I'm not taking any of that. So I just started exercising and eating right. And just because I knew that there was no going backwards, I always just had to find a new way forward. So when I would hit these plateaus and when I'd hit these walls and when I wouldn't want to go to the gym and work out, I would just remember how miserable I felt and ask myself, like, do I want to choose my misery or do I want my misery to choose me? And it's like, I'm going to choose it. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to choose what makes me miserable. And if it's that Stairmaster, it's going to be that Stairmaster for today. But when it's done and conquered, I'm going to feel a lot better than if I just sat on the couch and ate carne asada fries or whatever it was.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And it's funny because, like, obviously we both have very different journeys, but I resonate so much with so many things that you say, because I know, like, when you start to lose your health, that is probably the most difficult thing that you can deal with.
Amen.
I always tell people, I'm like, do not take your health for granted. I can deal with financial stress. I can deal with family stress. I can deal with relationship stress, but dealing with a health issue is the most stressful thing, frustrating thing, because kind of similar to you, like, I don't want to be on medications for the rest of my life. Like, the idea of that just freaks me out. I'm like, I don't know. I guess that's why I got so motivated. Because I'm like,
Well,
if
I
I
mean,
don't fix my health, I'm going to have to be on medications the rest of my life.
Yeah. And especially after, I mean, if you're paying attention at all, I think we can all see that, like, it's not necessary that the pharmaceutical industry necessarily, like, they have your best interest in mind. So, are these medicines actually the best thing for me? Especially someone like you with lupus. Like, I've read some of those medications, like some of them are synthesized from black widow venom. I'm looking at it and I'm like, that can't be good, but
Yeah.
somehow it works.
Yeah. I don't even, yeah, I don't even know. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to believe because I don't know anything. Does anybody know what's going on? Does anybody know what's in our food, what's in our medicine? I don't know. I don't know. I'm turning into like one of those crazy people that's like afraid of like our food and our medicine. But it's because I've had like so many bad experiences with it.
Yeah.
And because then I saw a thing that, and I don't know what the data is on this. I just saw an article that said that there were people, I don't think they're saying that Gardasil causes lupus, but there was an article saying that there were people that were diagnosed with lupus that had the Gardasil vaccine. So there was at least like some sort of correlation with it.
Interesting.
So yeah, and I haven't really been able to find much else on it, so I don't know if it's accurate or not. But it seems like very interesting to me because I also got the Gardasil vaccine and I had a very bad experience with it. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm
Same.
like, I'm so paranoid now of like everything. And I've never been like that. Like I used to be the kind of person where I would just like take any medication they gave me. Like I never researched any of them. And like I never read the ingredients on my food because like I just trusted that everything was safe. I
Yeah.
trusted that. And now I feel like I can't
Yeah.
trust that anymore. And it's kind of, yeah, it's a little frustrating. Um,
Rightly so.
yeah,
Rightly so.
even just our food. Even if you eat healthy, even if you
Have
eat
you seen,
healthy,
okay,
it's like, oh my God.
to kind of pause here for a second on this food thing. Have you seen some of this like great value brand food labeling where you know how sometimes on the back of something it'll say contains wheat or soy, like, and they try to put those allergy info on there. It's like manufactured in a place that does something with peanuts. And they'll put those little labels on the back so people know, like, hey, there could be some cross contamination here. There is a large amount of great value Walmart brand foods that say like contain fish and shellfish possible remnants in them that are not seafood type things. Like there is no reason for there to be cross contamination with some sort of seafood, but you look at it and you're like, how how could how could have seafood gotten into this product? But I'm
Wow, that is what I
there's some
think I
weird stuff.
saw that, but I didn't remember it being like seafood. I'm gonna have to, okay, next time I go to Walmart, I'm gonna go down the aisles and I'm gonna look at the ingredients.
Yeah, it's specifically great value brand stuff, and not to trash Walmart stuff because they're
Yeah,
trying
I
to
go to
provide,
Walmart.
yeah, they try to provide
It's
a
cheap.
fairly low cost product for the American consumer. And I get that. But really, I hate to be Mr. like conspiracy theory guy, but it just
We're
seems
putting
like,
on our tinfoil hat right now, guys.
yeah,
Okay.
like if we know that the pharmaceutical industry makes medications that are supposed to help with things that are caused by the foods that we eat, and we also know that the pharmaceutical industries are one of the largest subsidizers of big food and a lot of these food companies, it almost seems like, well, maybe there is something to this. And I think what it really comes down to is people are outsourcing so much now that they don't understand what goes into their food. And when you start making your own food, and that's something that I do ask my clients to do, at least for their first 4 weeks, is you are not allowed to eat out one time. You need to make all your food. I give you recipes. I teach you how to make food. If you're a local client, I'll even invite you up to my house and teach you how to cook if you don't know how to cook. Like whatever I have to do to make this possible for you, because I need you to learn what goes into your food so that you understand that eating a cheeseburger doesn't make you feel like crap. It's eating McDonald's cheeseburgers or eating fast food cheeseburgers. And McDonald's gets picked on a lot too, but there's like 50 other restaurants that are just as bad. It's just they're very well known. And the whole thing is that when you make a burger yourself, you don't feel like crap all the time. You know, if you spend an extra $2 to get a premium bread product that's not enriched with a bunch of things, you don't feel sick when you eat it. So when you just start making your own food and you become more conscious of it, and then you realize, like, I have a client who went to the doctor. Her doctor told her she had Graves' disease. She'd be lucky to lose 4 to 5 pounds for the rest of her life. She's been with me for 2 weeks. She's down 6 pounds. She's eating way more food than she used to because her doctor put her on a 1,200 calorie diet. I moved her up to 1,650 calories. She's walking 30 minutes a day. She's losing weight, eating more food because she's eating good food. And it's like just making some simple changes to the way that you live can substantially change what it is rather than outsourcing it to, you know, some random food manufacturer. I don't want to pick one because there's a lot of bad ones. There's a lot of good ones, but just educating yourselves in awareness, like just situational awareness of what you're putting in your body, what you're putting around you. That's important.
Yeah. And that's something that I've really focused on like the last couple months is just I kind of like started the base of my diet with like an animal-based diet. So I was only eating grass-fed beef, chicken, like free-range chicken or whatever it's called, organic, whatever it is, I don't know. Free-range something. And then I was also eating fruit, and I was eating greens and sweet potatoes. So that was like all I was eating for, I don't know, a few weeks or so. And then I started kind of slowly adding a couple things back in, like adding back in rice or, you know, like simple things, but trying to focus most of my diet on things that I know where they come from. And they don't have like actually eating like whole foods. And a lot of the foods that I'm eating now, I'm eating raw. So I don't have to cook as much. So that's kind of nice. But and I've obviously eaten like a cheeseburger since I've started this diet. You know, I'm not like super restrictive. Like if I go out to eat, I'm still going to get what I want on the menu. But that's because I don't go out to eat that often. So I can do that. But if I went out to eat every week, then I might need to, you know, maybe adjust my choice a little bit of what I'm getting. But kind of taking everything away and like bringing my diet down to just like a few ingredients for a while really helped me kind of just be more aware of how often I was like snacking or grabbing a bag of chips or whatever it was. Because for me, like I don't really have a problem with weight. So it's kind of hard for me to motivate myself to eat healthy. Because I know I can eat, you know, pizza and whatever, and I'm probably not going to gain that much weight because I'm really consistent with my workouts and I walk every day and I'm good. But so I know my metabolism, like I'm fine. So, but I don't feel fine when I eat like that. That's the problem. So for me, I have to eat healthy because I need to feel good. So for a while, there was like, I don't know, maybe like 6 weeks or so that I made some questionable choices with my diet. I was like, oh, I want to get this giant cookie or, you know, whatever. But it got to the point where I was like, not only doing that on the weekend, but then like during the week, I was snacking at night or, you know, and I'm not snacking on healthy things, of course. So I was like, yeah, I need to clean this up. You know, I need to clean this up. Like, let me just have a little bit of discipline for a few weeks. I'm like, I'm not going to do this diet permanently, but I just want to like simplify my diet for a second so I can just really focus on eating quality food and then adding things back in so I can see if they make me feel bad. Because taking everything out and then bringing it all back all at once, then you're not really going to notice what food makes you feel which way. So I didn't really do any dairy for a while. Now I've had a little bit, but it's something that I'm like, okay, this isn't something I can have every day. This is something I can have a few days a week and I'll be fine. But if I eat this every single day, it's going to catch up to me. So just kind of listening to my body and seeing how things make me feel, because everybody's different. And one diet might work for you and a different diet might work for me. And that's why like I get so annoyed sometimes when people are like, well, this is the best diet, or like you should do keto or you should do this. And it's like, some people should do that diet. Some people should do carnivore. Some people should do keto, whatever. There's, oh, my battery died. Hold on. Yeah. So this is probably a big thing with like social media. I think that's what's caused most of this like diet war, I guess you could call it. vegans versus carnivores and keto versus high carb. And I'm like, dude, not everybody has the same body. So not everybody reacts the same to different diets. And oh my God, it just drives me nuts. I'm like, just do the diet that works for you, you know?
Yeah, I think realistically you touched on probably the biggest thing there. And this is where it gets hard. And especially in like our modern culture, our modern society, there is this built-in fear of missing out on everything. You see on social media, Joe Schmoes go into this new food place. You see this person living this way, and they're throwing up this highlight reel that makes you think this is how they're living their life. And then you see the way they look and you're like, okay, well, I guess I can do that too. And this fear of missing out causes people to constantly crave variety in their lives. And when it comes to food, that's one of the worst things that we can be doing for ourselves, especially if you're trying to see some sort of development or change or consistency. Low variety foods. And by low variety, I don't mean eat chicken and rice and broccoli every single day. I'm talking about eat a simple lean protein, a simple carbohydrate source, and throw in some vegetables. If you don't like vegetables, okay, maybe you don't have to eat them. Get yourself some greens or something. Get yourself one vegetable that you like, but you need to be getting in some vitamins. Get yourself a blood test. Find out where you're deficient. Try to find those areas that you can seek improvement in. But low variety is significantly better. And I know this from experience because I know that when I eat like a dog, and what I mean by that is I stick with 3 or 4 carbohydrate sources. I stick with 3 or 4 protein sources, very few vegetables. And the reason I don't eat a whole lot of vegetables isn't because I think vegetables are bad for you. We can get into how do vegetables defend themselves and phytotoxins and things like that, because they don't have any other ability to defend themselves other than toxins that they potentially produce. And not all of them do. But it's like, content wise, calorie wise, I've gotten to the point where I've reduced the size of the food that I eat down to a manageable amount that I'm not constantly having to shove vegetables in my food to feel satiated after I'm done. But the reason why we like to add vegetables is they're typically high fiber foods. And we know that when you add high fiber foods to high protein foods, high lean protein foods, it reduces glucose spikes. When we reduce glucose spikes, we reduce cortisol responses. And what a lot of people don't understand is that cortisol response is that fight or flight response that's constantly putting your body in a state of aggravation, essentially. And if you're constantly having this state of aggravation, well, when are you getting that out? The reason we have that fight or flight system is because, well, I need to either defend myself because I'm going to die, or I need to run for my life. So stress response, feel that way, and then you get rewarded afterwards. The reason why you have that cortisol, the reason why you have that glucose is to fight for your life, run for your life, and then dopamine and serotonin and endorphins afterwards because you lived. And your body's like, hey, good job on living. You made it past another time of almost dying. And that's what exercise does for us, is it gets rid of that stress response. The reason why you see studies coming out of Europe, and not so much in America, but you see a lot of this coming out of Europe, where they're saying that exercise of 30 to 60 minutes a day is equivalent to or better than taking SSRIs by over 220% in some of these studies, is because you're getting those massive serotonin spikes, those massive dopamine spikes that the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors are meant to keep in your system. So even combined with exercise, you're going to see better results. I'm not telling you to stop taking your antidepressant. I'm saying do that and start exercising and see what you need. But like, this low variety lifestyle sounds boring to people, but it's like, who are you doing it for? Are you doing it for you, or are you doing it for the world? Because if you're doing it for you, it doesn't matter how much variety you have. It's about the way you feel. It's about living your best quality life. And, you know, to each his own. If you want to go out and try every little food place, go for it. But I will tell you this, you're not going to feel as good as you would if you just ate the same lunch every single day and a pretty low variety dinner, and then you switch it up every couple of, every week or whatever. You eat the same lunch every day for a week. The next week, You eat a new lunch every day for the same day. You try to keep your dinners pretty regulated. And then, like you said, I'm not going out to eat super often. And you said something that was so funny. You're like, it's not like I'm going out to eat once a week or something. And I think, like, to some people, that's even crazy. You only go out to eat once a week? You only eat out once a week? I was eating out at my fatness. Like, and let me tell y'all, king of the fat asses here. At 420 pounds, I'd start my day off by going to Carl's Jr. For you people not in California, that's Hardee's. I'd get myself a double breakfast burger combo with a large Dr. Pepper. Who knows how many calories are in that? For lunch, if I ate, it was more than likely another Dr. Pepper, bag of chips, sandwich, or I'd go to some Mexican food place, get whatever I wanted. And then for dinner, anything and everything. And a lot of the time, no shame here, stopping by and getting fast food on the way home, then eating dinner with my wife. I was eating out 3 times a day, not knowing what was in my food. And it's like, well, no wonder my body was falling apart because I had no idea what I was putting in it ever. And a lot of people are doing that, and genetics for them are just a little bit better than mine. Or maybe they're a little bit more active.
Yeah. Well, and I think one thing that people don't realize is calories in, calories out. You know, it's been proven like time and time again. Okay. Yeah, that's how it works. You know, you eat less calories than you burn, then you're gonna lose weight. But it's more than just that, because when you're eating this ultra processed food, it's more palatable than if you were to eat whole foods. So you're going to eat more of it. And it's also more calorie dense. So that's why you're gaining weight when you're eating this type of food. It's not really even their fault. It's like you could eat the same amount of food, but if you were eating better food, you wouldn't get so addicted to it. That's the difference. You don't get addicted to eating a ground beef patty with pineapples and greens or whatever weird meal I come up with this week. I'm always eating such random things. Like, I'll like post my like dinner on Instagram sometimes. It'll just be like a piece of chicken and strawberries and sweet potatoes.
Yeah, it sounds like you're eating like a human being should.
Yeah, that's what I like to eat. It tastes good. And you get used to it after a while. Like, you actually enjoy it. Like, you like look forward to it. Especially like sweet potato fries are my favorite. And I love just like cutting up fresh fruit and just snacking on it all day. And yeah, I love it. And it has fiber. It's good for you. And then making greens and all kinds of vegetables. So that's how I eat. But it took me a while to kind of figure out a diet that works for me. Because I had just a lot of trial and error. But what I did realize is that eating all that processed food and fast food, that's addicting. It's so addicting, especially if you start to get in the habit of doing it like more than once a week. I feel like you're kind of going on a slippery slope if you, I don't know. I feel like anytime I would eat fast food like 2 or 3 times a week, then it would be really easy for me to like keep doing it. And then 4 times a week, 5 times a week. Especially if you have the money to do it. If you have the money to go out to eat every night, it's a lot easier than cooking.
Yeah. Yeah, you're always, if you're looking for an excuse to eat out, you can always find one. Like, I cook most of the food that my wife and my kid eats. You know, for us, like I cook most of our food, and the reason I cook most of our food is I genuinely learned to love cooking in the process of losing weight, because I realized I can make really good food and I can be a really good cook without having to dump tons of oil and butter into things and using unsaturated fats. That's a whole nother thing. You know, the unsaturated fats are crushing people because there's nothing to them, and they're used in so many of our things as like a preservative / cooking material. But yeah, it's so much easier to not cook. But I'm telling you, if you do, you're going to feel so much better that you won't ever not want to cook again. hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, I would say if you can afford to go buy organic and grass fed and like all the quality stuff, if you can afford to do that and not buy anything canned, not buy anything frozen unless it's like, frozen stuff you're gonna thaw. Not like a frozen pre-made dinner.
Yeah.
Much different thing right there. But yeah, avoiding anything that's like pre-made, canned, anything that's like, yeah, ultra processed fast food, stuff like that. If you
Yeah.
can avoid that or at least limit it to where it's only like 5% of what you eat, um you're gonna feel so much better. And I know for a lot of people sometimes the obstacle is just they simply can't afford it,
Yeah.
because food is so I mean, you could probably afford it pretty easily like 5 years ago, but now it's like it is
Yeah.
so expensive. And it's
Yeah.
so tempting sometimes to go with like the cheaper, um, less healthy option because it's like, oh, I'll save $5 on my groceries today if I don't, get
Yeah.
everything organic or whatever. So yeah, that I feel like makes it hard too. Um,
Yeah.
for a lot of people, especially if they have like, economically an obstacle. It can
Yeah.
be hard. And that's what I think a lot of people are dealing with right now with trying to eat healthy because a lot of people are losing their jobs, a lot of people aren't making as much money as they used to or their businesses are shutting down. And it's just, I mean, it's been a tough 3 years for our country,
Yes.
financially for sure. So I think that too, and this is something that I didn't really think about as much until I started to really see the effects of the economy start to really take a toll. Like when I saw Amazon laid off all these people, and I'm like, okay, this is real. This is really happening. The economy's not good.
Yeah.
And when I started to kind of see that, I'm like, so I think probably what there's going to be a big demand for is just trying to figure out how to eat healthy and not, spend an arm and a leg. And I think that's kind of what I've gotten good at
Yes.
is not spending a lot of money at the grocery store. I mean, I'm only one person, so I can't imagine how hard it is when you have kids. Like my brother and his wife, they have their fifth kid on the way, and
Holy
it's like
cow.
it's got to be tough. It's got to be tough. And they eat really, really healthy too. So I can
Yeah.
imagine their grocery bill is just off the charts.
Yeah. It adds up, but like there are so many cheap things. Like I went to Sam's Club today
But it's an
and
investment in your health,
yes.
is really what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. And I went to Sam's Club today and yes, the price of chicken has almost doubled. Yes, the price of beef has gone up 30%. Yes, the rice, potatoes, all that stuff has gone up, but it's like I can buy a 25-pound bag of rice for like $30. That's rice for years.
Yeah,
I can buy
I've
a
got one of
20,
those.
yeah, I can buy a 25-pound bag of potatoes for like $12. And I can buy chicken thighs already, they're fair. I don't want to say they're processed, but they're not like crazy processed. They debone, they de-skin them for you. You can buy them with the bones and skin if you want and do it all yourself. But trust
That's
me,
what I
it's a
do
pain. Yeah, it's a pain.
because I'm crazy.
But like, yeah, but like
Or I just
if you
cook it
look
with the
at it,
skin on because I'm like, I like the little
yeah,
extra fat, but that's just
yeah,
me.
a
But
hundred
I,
percent.
but I can do that because the rest of the day I'm eating like a lot of raw food and I'm eating a lot of like, I eat like lean ground beef or venison.
Mm-hmm.
So I can get away with having a little extra fat on my chicken thigh. But it's like,
Yeah,
um, yeah, that's actually
that's
a food that I've implemented in my diet for a long time.
chicken thighs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like them more than chicken breasts, but
Yeah.
all of that to say, like, you can buy a week's worth of food for less than $100 per person. Like, if you have kids, kids don't eat much, but like my wife and I, we eat a very simple diet. I meal prep for the week usually. I usually make two different lunch meals for us to choose from. One of them's usually a beef meal, one of them's usually a chicken meal, rice and potatoes. I make one of them fairly plain so that you can sauce it up with whatever sauces you want. And I make one of them that, like, one of my favorite things to make is Big Mac bowls, where I take potatoes, chop them up, ground beef, a slice of American cheese, and then just, mustard mayo, on a mustard, mayo, whatever you want, like whatever condiments you like on a burger. And it's like in a little bowl. They're like 400, 500 calories. And I can make 10 of them for $30, $40. And you can eat fairly cheap. But yeah, does it look as appetizing as something else? No, but I'm not really doing it. That's why I don't post pictures of my food online. Like, I don't care what you think about my
Yeah.
food. It makes me feel better. Um,
Oh yeah,
I
whenever
have,
I would like bring my little meal prep to work and stuff, people always make fun of me and be like,
yeah,
"What are you eating?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm
yeah,
eating real food. That's what I'm eating. What are you
yeah.
eating? You don't
Getting
even know."
shamed for, yeah, you're getting shamed for eating good food, healthy
Yeah.
food.
Oh, all the
It's
time.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's a
Hilarious.
sad thing, is like when people look at you weird for, like, it is weird to me that being unhealthy is normal.
Yeah.
Like that's just normal in America. And it's normal in a lot of first world countries that are
Yeah.
hyper developed. And it's even getting into third world countries. I've been to India, and they eat a lot of Americanized fast food because it's like, well, that's what people want. It tastes good. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But, bigger problems in India than eating fast food. Bigger problems there.
Yeah, it really, I think that's a big obstacle for people too, with losing weight and just getting healthy in general is
Mm-hmm.
their circle sometimes can be the limiter. Because if
Yeah.
your circle of friends, your friend group, they like to get fast food for lunch. Maybe they're your coworkers. Get fast food for lunch. You guys all go get fast food together. And then Friday night, you guys all go to the bar and you get a greasy burger and french fries and you drink 12 beers. whatever whatever you do. I don't know, maybe you only have 3,
Yeah.
but even that, like if you're trying to get healthier, those are all things that are going to slow you down.
Yeah.
And if you have people in your life that are encouraging you to do those things and discouraging you from changing your habits, that's going to be really hard to overcome without limiting
Yeah.
your time with those people.
Yeah. It sucks to think that way. Like that, hey, you might have to, like, maybe not have some certain friends in your life, or maybe put them on the back burner. But what I will tell you, and this is from personal experience, I found out who belonged in my circle when I started making changes like that, because I had friends that supported it, because they were like, yeah, dude, you should get healthy. Like, and I had some that were like, oh, you're not going to come to the bar with us anymore. You're not going to come out to eat with us all the time anymore. And they stopped calling, they stopped reaching out. And it's like, that was important for me to realize and make that connection in my head of who I surround myself with is going to dictate a lot of what I allow into my life. And that's like something you hear in church growing up.
Yeah,
And like, you got to be careful with what you let in your ears. But it's so true
it
with anything.
is.
It's like what you let your eyes see, what you let your ears hear, what you let your mouth taste. All of those things are going to affect the way that you live your life. And if you can't limit those things because of the people that you're surrounding yourself with, maybe that needs to change. And that's a tough conversation to have, but who's more important to you or your friends? Like, are you not important? Do you
Yep.
not have value? Do you not matter? You have to value yourself in order to make those changes. And sometimes that means putting yourself at the top of your value list.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a quote somewhere. It's like you either change the people around you or you change the people around you. And I love that because it's like, yeah, either the people around you need to get their life together and level up with you, or they're gonna get left behind. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just the way it goes. If they're not willing to support you at least in what you're doing, um, then you might need to either cut them off or just limit your time with them.
Yeah.
And set boundaries of like, hey, this is what I'm doing. If you don't support it, that's fine, but just know that, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with you if you're not going to support me in doing this, because this is literally like the most important thing in my life right now.
Yeah. And not all friend
So,
shame is bad. Like, I'll be honest, after
yeah.
this, the last time I was on your podcast, I got shamed by a friend for how bad my beard looked. I literally shaved my beard the next day. And because I looked fat in that podcast. And I was like,
Really?
dude, my face, I thought
I
I
did
did
not
because I had
think
all this
that.
like face puff. And then when I saw the video back, I was like, dude, you look terrible. I literally shaved my beard down the next day and I was like, I'm not a beard guy. I'll have a little face cover in here. That'll be my makeup, but short beard, that's it. Cause like the friend shame was enough for me to make a change, but it was because the people I had around me I trusted to shoot me straight and be like, dude, your beard looks like trash.
Yeah, you need to have friends like that in your life. Like my best friends, they call me out because yeah, sometimes you know what, I'm on some BS, okay? And
Yeah.
sometimes people need to call me out on it. And they
Yeah.
do. They do. Like my best friend, she's a therapist. And so
That's a
it's
tough friend.
always fun hearing her perspective on things, but she's so honest with me and I appreciate that because she's like, Bree,
Uh
girl,
I've got a few therapist
what are you
friends too, and
doing?
yeah, you can't a good therapist. You can't sneak much by. They're like, hey,
No.
you're deflecting.
Yeah.
Come
I
on,
feel
let me
bad
deflect.
sometimes because I'm like, I'm making you like work, I feel like, because I'm such a mess.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
ain't that the
Like,
truth?
oh man, it's just funny. But yeah, like I need you have to have friends in your life that are honest with you because and what I've noticed is since I've been friends with Emily, like both of us have we've grown a lot in life. Like we really have. And I think it's because we do push each other. And I'm really good friends with her fiance too. And so and he's the same way. He's just like they'll both like roast me sometimes. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
I deserve it, but I'll roast them back too, so it's okay.
yeah,
But it's fun
yeah.
and I really do think that we grow together as friends because we could just keep leveling up. Like every time I see them, it's like we're both like making moves. Like we're making moves constantly. And we're learning from our mistakes too. We're being open with each other about when maybe things aren't going so great and how we're overcoming it. And it's kind of nice having friends that, you know, kind of are in the trenches with you, so like struggling a little bit, but then also when you're winning, you're both winning and you're growing and you're getting better and better and better. And she's a little bit older than me too, so she's kind of like a little bit ahead of me as far as like just life experience, which has been great because I learned so much from her and just things that
Yes,
she's gone through. Like then I'll go through something and I'll be like, hey Emily, I'm dealing with this right now, like I don't know what to do. And she'll be like, oh yeah girl, I've been through it. You'll be fine. So it's just nice
that's
having
great.
somebody like that. And I think that's important too. Like when you are like trying to meet new people and make friends, like let's say you're somebody who's maybe a loner. Maybe you don't have a lot of friends. My suggestion would be to like start taking like group workout classes and maybe meet some friends there. Like go to like a boxing gym or jujitsu or do some kind of group activity because you'll meet people who are wanting to improve their life because they're
Yes,
doing something that is making them grow. And that's where you're going to meet people who are going to help you level up, in my opinion.
yes, 100%. And then to add to that, my little thing would be like if you're going to those classes and you feel like you're being shamed, you feel like somebody is razzing you a little bit. It's like one, think about how sad that person's life is that they have to go to a group fitness class or something to razz somebody to feel better about where they're at. And two, you shouldn't take criticism from anybody that you wouldn't take advice from because
100%.
like who is that person to criticize you? They don't know you. You wouldn't take advice from them. So it's like don't worry about it. Like I was so worried. I used to get gym anxiety when I was real fat because at being
Oh, I
six foot
still get
five,
gym anxiety.
I put a gym in my house. I don't get anxiety anymore because I have a gym in my house, but
Yeah.
I get a little anxious about going down there sometimes. But see myself in the mirror, I'm like, look at that fat ass. Um, but like I used to get anxiety because I'm 6'5", so I stand out as it is. And then I was like 420 pounds, and I'm over here like sweating to get into the gym. Just the walk from my car to the gym, I'm out of breath. And I was so concerned about people looking at me while I was working out. And I just realized, like, if they're busy looking at me, then like, why would I care? Because they're
Yeah.
supposed to be working out. Like,
I
who
know
cares?
exactly. That's the thing. Like, I don't look at anybody else when I'm at the gym. If I
And if
do,
I
it's
am,
probably I'm staring into space and I don't realize I'm staring at someone.
oh, well, if I am, it's a lot of the time I'm just like, what the heck is that person doing? What is that workout? I should go ask them. That looks great. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm staring at you at the gym, it's more than likely that you're doing something that I find so impressive. And a
Yes.
lot of the time, being that I was a fat person, like if I see a big person at the gym hustling, I'll go over there and like if they're like on their way out or something, or we meet each other in passing, and I'll just like be like, hey, dude, I see the effort. Because one time somebody did that to me. They saw me take my shirt off at a pool and I had all this loose skin. And rather than like laughing at me or talking with their friends, and this guy was jacked, like super built, six-pack guy. He comes over, he's like, hey, dude, I see you've been putting in some work and I just wanted to come over and say good job. And that changed me because it made me realize, like, okay, people do see this and it's not all negative. And I think you'll be surprised that if people are at the gym, they're exercising their own demons. And the ones that are busy laughing or joking or being punks at the gym, you got nothing to worry about with those people. Nothing.
100%.
But I'm not saying that you're cured now. Like, oh, cured. Yeah, I don't have gym anxiety anymore. It's like, no, but if you take that mindset into the gym and you have to remind yourself, also, get yourself a big loud set of headphones, throw on a hoodie, keep the hood on. Like, who cares what you look like? Just zone out, and don't be worried about it. But like, keep going. And I promise the people who are watching, they're it it they're watching probably because they're amazed. They're amazed that you
Yes.
keep showing them. They're amazed that you keep putting in work. And it's not all about weight loss. Like, maybe you don't want to lose weight. Maybe you want to get shredded. Maybe you're just a skinny guy or a skinny gal and you just want to put on some muscle. Or maybe you're just doing it for you. It's like, just keep showing up and putting in the work and remember that you're doing it for you. You're not doing it for everybody else. But social media is this spotlight effect on us that we think everyone's watching us. We think everyone's looking at us, and everyone inside their own head is thinking the same thing. I think they're watching me. I think they're looking at me. So you have 100 people all in their own head thinking everyone's looking at them. No one's looking at anyone.
Right. Yeah. I know. That's something I've really tried to get over is like just being myself and not worrying about what everybody thinks about me and just doing the things that I know are good for me and being like, no, I'm right. I'm doing the right thing. And just being sure of yourself is really important. I think that's why it takes a while though to kind of develop that mindset. And I think since I've been like so open about like my whole journey on social media, it's made me have like a little bit less fear of judgment just because like yeah, I am putting it all out there. Like I'm, showing people my routine, I'm showing people what I eat, I'm showing people how I'm feeling. I'm open about like my mental health and all those things. So I don't really feel like I have as much of that, but there are still times where, I'll get gym anxiety or I'll feel like everybody's
Mm-hmm.
staring at me, or maybe I'll have a day where I just don't feel like I look that good, or maybe I'm bloated or whatever the situation is. Maybe I ate something bad the night before and yeah, and I just don't feel confident, or maybe I'm going through something in life that's making me not feel confident. So I have those moments. But I think just being authentic and being sure of yourself are two very important things because yeah, and social media has a lot to do with that, but there's also a lot of fakeness on social media.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's important to just know that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Um
And
yeah, but
not to trash social media too much, but like there was a study that just came out, and it if you just Google US Surgeon General social media, and it's specifically about adolescents, people 10 to 19, but it was talking about people who spent time on social media were more depressed, more anxious, more negative self-talk, all these things. And they did these studies where they took people off social media for 30 days, or they limited it to 30 minutes or less, and you look at these subjective like baseline improvements of like happiness and less depression, less anxious. I don't think we're meant to live constantly knowing what everyone is doing,
no.
because it does take away from what you're doing. Like you're crushing it with all this stuff that you are doing right now, and like I'm sitting here like, man, it's so cool that Bree has decided to chase this dream, like of like doing the MMA stuff, and like no matter how many dicks are online going, women can't talk MMA, you're like still going out there and doing it.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to chase it so much more. But if you are looking at it constantly, taking that information in and being like, yes, that is true, that is true, that is true, well, then yeah, of course you're not going to post the video. Of course you're not going to do the thing. But if you're only
Yep.
doing it for that recognition, then that becomes a bad thing too. So it's like social media has good and bad, but what I will tell you is the less time you spend on there, the happier you will be, because you'll be able to just truly self-reflect and not play that comparison game.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like I think that's why I've gotten away from being so much of a consumer of social media and more just a creator. And I know like sometimes like people they'll be like, "Oh, you didn't like my picture," whatever, like my parents or whoever, somebody will complain. Somebody I'm like, dude, just because I didn't like your picture doesn't mean I don't like you. I'm like, I don't sit there and scroll through Facebook anymore because otherwise I'd be sitting there all day because I get notifications all day long. And I'm just like when I posted the Theo Von thing, I had to turn off my notifications because it was going crazy,
Bro,
which I
that
still can't
was
believe.
insane.
I still can't believe. So for the people
What was the
listening, if you
reach on
don't,
that? Was that like a million?
6 million.
Six. Bree. That is
I
crazy.
okay. So, okay, for people listening who don't follow me on Facebook, I posted. So everybody was talking about Matt Rife, who I'm a fan of Matt Rife. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
And but I just kept seeing everybody post about it. So I was like, you know who my favorite comedian is? I'm like, it's not Matt Rife, it's Theo Von. I'm like, so I'm gonna post something funny about Theo Von. And I wasn't even thinking. I was just like, you know how like on Facebook you kind of have those people that look at your posts? Like that's kind of who it was for. Like those 10 people that are on my Facebook that love Theo Von. Like that's who it was
Yeah.
for. And
The
one
real
of them
G's.
shared it and then a million people shared it and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." So I posted it and it started to get, a few shares and once it got up to like 500, I was like, what the heck is going on? I've never had anything get that many shares before. And let alone something about Theo Von. I was like, I've been posting about Theo Von for like 5 years and nobody ever
Yeah.
shared anything. Now you share it, but it's because they knew I was talking about Matt Rife, who at the time was trending, but I didn't even say his name in my post, but everybody assumed that's who I was talking about. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's hilarious. So I posted a picture of Theo Von and I said, if I'm going to pay $200 for concert tickets or for comedian tickets, it better be this guy. And 37,000 people shared it. And so it reached 6 million people, which is
So cool.
crazy, which I still don't even understand how that's even possible, but I'm like, whatever. I still don't even know what
Yeah.
to think of it because I'm like, I wasn't even like thinking that anybody would share it or that it would go viral. Like, if I thought something was going to go viral, I would think it would be like one of my reels or something. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be some dumb post about a comedian.
Yeah. It's so funny because I
I
saw
love
your
Theo
post like a
Von.
day or
I
two.
love Theo Von. He's amazing. Like I want to meet him one day and I want to go see him live next time he's here. He's freaking amazing. But
Yes.
I just thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. When I saw that, and I was laughing about it, and then when I logged back in later that day and I see that it's just blown up, I was and then I saw you post like, if only the content that I actually worked hard on had that kind of reach. And I know that feeling because I don't use TikTok at all, but I made a TikTok one time and I posted like a weight loss transformation TikTok, and it got like 2 million plays and 6 million. It was my first TikTok I ever posted. And
Oh my God.
it got like, it went viral. It just got millions and millions of shares and plays and comments. I
Wow.
never, I never used TikTok again. Like I could have used TikTok to like leverage something or whatever out of it. Cause a lot of people
Yeah.
do that nowadays. It's like they leverage their thing for, fame. But
Yeah.
it's like, why couldn't that have been an Instagram post? Like I actually care
I
about my Instagram
know.
followers.
I know. And I was like literally like so frustrated with Facebook for so long. And then I started to kind of get back like, okay, maybe Facebook isn't that bad. And I deleted some people off of there
That
that were
helps.
annoying me.
That helps a
And
lot.
yeah. Because I was just like way too nice before and I just like tolerated way too much nonsense. And now I'm like, no, I'm not dealing with like people commenting weird stuff or rude things. Like, no, if you're disrespectful, I'm blocking you. Bye.
Yeah.
Like that's the point I've gotten to. But yeah, it's just so funny to me. And I don't know, like, yeah, I do wish it was my own content that, popped off like that. But also I'm like, well, I just started, I'm still new at this.
Yeah.
So then once I saw that it was really going viral, I was like, okay, how can I use this to kind of like maybe help some other people? Use
Mm.
this reach that I've gotten. Like, so I made the post about like my favorite comedians. Like I made a whole list of, and I didn't put all of them on there, but I just put a lot of the ones that maybe a lot of people don't know about. Um, and people are like, what? Dave Chappelle's not on your list? And I'm like, yeah, because he's already like the most famous comedian ever. Like, why do I?
Yeah.
I'm
We
like,
don't need to
no.
re-goat the
The
goat.
whole point of what I was trying to do was use that trend to promote not only my favorite comedians, but also some local ones too, like Max Price,
Mm.
and help him because he's filming his special here at the end of August, early September at the Funny Bone in St. Charles.
I
So
might have to go to that.
you should. Yeah, I'm trying to get a bunch of people to go. So
I
it'll be
went to the
fun.
Funny Bone this last weekend. It was great.
Who was there?
I went to the one down the other Funny Bone, not the one in St.
Oh,
Charles, but the
Westport.
one Westport. And it was PJ Walsh. He's not like a super well-known comic, but he tours, and dude, it was so funny. And we were messaging back and forth on Instagram afterwards because I saw him after the show, and I was just we were chatting after the show, me and him, and I don't want to give up one of his jokes, but he told this story, and just like 10 seconds later, after I talked to him, we turn around and we see like the exact type of situation of what it was, and we're dying. And I just send him a video right away, and I'm like, dude, you will not believe what just happened. It I think a lot of the time people want to see like the Dave Chappelles and they want to see the Theo Vons, but it's like, dude, there's a guy like PJ Walsh that no one's ever heard of that will still make you laugh your ass off. And
Yeah. Well, and that's
comedy
kind of
is a
what I
fun
was.
art.
Yeah, that was like kind of my point too. With like some of it was like, okay, so like the first one I put was Craig Conan, and I saw him at the Funny Bone St. Charles not too long ago, and he killed. And he's so funny, and he has a podcast too that he's been doing for like, I don't know, 4 years. He's been doing comedy for over a decade. He worked at Trader Joe's when he started his comedy career, and he worked at Trader Joe's for 11 years. So at some point during that 11 years, he started
Dang.
doing stand up, and he's a recovered drug addict. So he's got like a crazy amazing story, and he's hilarious, and he does a lot of like jokes about like his past, and also jokes about being sober and that whole process. And it's just so cool to see people getting recognition that are people that are relatable, like people that you can identify with. Because it's like, how do you relate to someone like Kevin Hart? You know, like it's tough because he's, you know, he's so rich and famous. It's like once they get to
Yeah.
a certain level, it's really kind of hard to relate to him. But yeah, so I posted him and I posted a bunch of other comedians that I really like because I'm just a huge comedy fan. I've been a comedy fan since I was 10 years old.
I had no idea, and that makes me so happy. It's another thing we have
Oh
in common.
yeah, I downloaded, I'm pretty sure I downloaded them off like LimeWire. I'm sure I didn't probably buy them
Me
because I didn't have any money,
too.
but I would download off LimeWire. I'm probably going to get arrested for saying this. I
Whoop, whoop.
downloaded them when I was 10 years old, and I would get like the Joe Rogan specials, I would get like the Dane Cook specials. I would even have I forget the name of the other comic that I really liked. Brian Regan was one of them. Jim
Yes.
Gaffigan, like ton of different comedians. Doug
Yes.
Stanhope,
Dave
and
Attell.
probably not anything appropriate for a 10-year-old, but it doesn't matter. I I loved it. And I would
Yeah.
listen to him with my headphones on the school bus. That's when I
That
listened to
puts you in a
stand up.
whole nother league. Yeah. And that, like, I think what a lot of people realize is if you listen to stand up, you just learn to find the crazy and it becomes funny. Like,
Yes.
Brian Regan was the first comedian that like I'd listened to a special over and over and over again. And then I got into Jim Gaffigan and, like you said, Dane Cook was huge.
Yeah.
Chappelle was huge, obviously, because the Chappelle show. And then, you know, Chris Rock's old stuff was ridiculously funny.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
I got into like going back and listening to people that were like way back. And
Like
look,
Richard
I
Pryor
like,
and all them.
yeah, and like I like the really famous people too. Like I went and saw Chappelle when he came to St. Louis, and
Oh,
it was,
Chappelle's the goat. Yeah. Chappelle's
yeah,
amazing.
it was incredible. I went and saw Kevin Hart when he came. I have tickets to go see Burt Kreischer's Fully Loaded tour because there's going to be a lot of comics there.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it because like I'm going to support comedy, but you supporting people at the Funny Bone is like it. I don't know. There's just something special about it. It's like watching college football versus pro football. They try and they're not making millions. They're showing
Yeah.
up literally to make people laugh. They're not showing up for a paycheck. They're getting paid a $50 spot. That's beautiful to me because that's art.
Oh, I know. And just probably has to be the hardest career to be successful in. It has to
Right.
be. If you are a
Right.
successful comedian, oh my God, you're a special
Yeah.
human.
Yeah.
And that's why like every comedian I've ever met has been like one of the coolest people I've ever met every time.
Yeah.
It's like,
Funny people are fun to be around.
oh my
They're
gosh.
just way better to be around.
Yeah. And they just have a different mindset too. Like their ability to handle rejection is just insane. Cause like you're gonna bomb. I think the only
Yeah.
comedian that really never bombed was Dave Chappelle.
No, he's been like for
I
20
don't think
plus
he really
years
ever
crushing
has.
it.
He
No.
was just like that gifted at it. And there are people like that. Like just like in MMA, there's like Habib. You know, he never
Yeah.
really, I mean, before MMA, like I think he lost a match in Sambo, but in MMA, he never had a problem. So it's
Yeah.
like a very similar, like Dave Chappelle is the Habib of comedy, is basically what I'm trying to say.
That's a good comparison.
But yeah, I'll wrap this up. But before we do, I'll just ask you who right now, who's your favorite? We'll go, who's your favorite comedian of all time? And then who's your favorite up and coming comedian right now, since we're on that theme?
So up and coming's kind of tough because some of the people that I started listening to in comedy, they are now like they get on Joe Rogan and now they're huge.
Yeah.
But like I remember listening to Mark Norman,
Oh,
his
Mark
little
Norman
specials
is
and his little
amazing.
one-offs. And I personally love his comedy. My wife hates it. She can't do it. But I don't know. I just find how dumb it is to be
I
so
didn't like him when
funny.
I first watched him. I didn't
Yeah.
like him either. I had to
So
watch him like 3 or 4 times before I liked him.
if you would classify him as up and coming, I would say he's up there
I would
near the
say to the
top.
general public, yeah, probably. Because, I
Yeah.
mean, it's not like he's selling out the pageant tomorrow, like, I mean, he probably could. But
Yeah.
I saw him at Helium, with a small crowd. So,
Wow.
yeah.
What
And
was
that
that
was,
like?
that was during COVID. So it was kind of weird, actually, because everybody's wearing masks.
Oh,
It was
man.
kind of awkward. But he killed. He still killed. Like, if I was a comedian in his position, like I probably would have been so nervous and just off my game because you can't tell people are laughing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's got to be super tough.
So we were like taking our masks off to laugh sometimes just to make sure he knew we were laughing. And then we
Yes.
put him back on.
We find this funny.
And I made sure to
You
like
can't hear
laugh
us.
really loud so that he could hear me because I'm like,
Yeah.
this is hilarious, guys.
Yeah.
But
I
also
don't
like
get why people
sometimes
go to
sometimes
and
St.
they
Louis
don't,
is a weird crowd.
right?
Yeah,
You
I've
don't know
noticed
what
that.
part of St. Louis is coming.
Yeah, you really don't know.
Many
You don't know
different.
if you're getting, the boot heel. You don't know if you're getting Jefferson County. You don't know if you're getting St. Charles County. You
Yeah.
really never know. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's always an awkward crowd for some reason. But I always just like try to tune that out. And I think that's why a lot of times the local comedians do really well here because it's a lot of times people they know that are in the crowd,
Yeah.
or people that know them, that follow them and stuff. And that's why I like to follow like comedians on social media so you can keep up with their podcasts and you can kind of see like who they are and behind the scenes a little bit. So then when you see their comedy, like you understand it a little bit better. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's important. I think it's important before going to a comedy show to know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
At
Another
least like research it a little bit, Like don't
yeah.
be shocked when they make a joke about, when they got a DUI 12 years ago or whatever.
Yeah. I I think a lot of the time people get all offended because they like put themselves in the comedy. It's like it's not about you.
Yeah.
It's not about you. A lot of these people, it's not about you. It's about them, or it's about the culture. It's about society. Have you? I'm sure you've seen that Stravos.
Stavros.
He's got
Oh
some
yeah.
Stavros. I found his special hilarious. I watched
Yeah,
his
he's
special.
funny.
I thought it was great. He's getting bigger.
He was just
So
on Theo Von's podcast, I think, recently.
oh really? I might have to give that a listen. Yeah,
Yeah.
I found him pretty good. But as far as like who I find to be the best, or my opinion of the best, is Louis C.K. And it's mainly because I
He was
personally
so good when he was like
I love his
popping.
style.
Like when he was before obviously all the shit happened.
Yeah.
Before that happened, he was nobody could touch him at the time. Like
Yeah.
every special you knew was gonna be gold. Like he didn't
I got
miss.
some good news for you. His new special that's on his website for like $15, it is on par
I
with
haven't
his old
watched it.
stuff. It you can get, so he wrote a new special and he produced a new film called Born on the 4th of July for like $20. You get access to lifetime access to both of them. There, I don't want to talk about it and give away anything, but like it, I was crying laughing, couldn't breathe. Like I was laughing to the point where no noise was coming out because I had no air in my lungs. And like, look, I go to church every Sunday. I try to live my best life towards that. He pulled out a Bible and did like 20 minutes making fun of things in the Bible. And I'm just dying laughing because if you can't laugh at it, like,
Yeah.
that means like you should be able to laugh at it. And he's just the way his viewpoint on things being so polar opposite of just like what society norms are. And then like, he'll just drop some disgusting joke in there about like having sex with a kid or something, and people get all offended. It's like, it's a joke. It's a fake
Yeah,
kid.
it's a joke.
Like
Like
Just laugh.
They make movies of people murdering people, and you're not like, oh my God, they murdered someone. It's like, yeah, it's a
Person
movie.
is dead.
It's a movie. It's entertainment. Like, that's what
Yeah.
comedians are doing too. They're creating these shocking scenes in your head. That's what their job is to do, is to shock you. And I think sometimes, and it's like, yeah, if you don't like that type of comedy, then maybe you should watch it. Like, maybe you should go watch somebody like a Jim Gaffigan or Nate Bargatze, you know, and they're great. They're
Nate's
great because
too.
people need that. There are people that need, you know, clean comedy, or maybe they want something they can watch with their kids. So I think it's just, yeah, there's all different, you know, flavors of comedy. And you've got like Mark Norman, he likes to use a lot of analogies, and he's he's so funny.
Play on words and just dumb stuff.
Yeah, he's hilarious. And then it's like Theo Von. Theo Von is like, you know, rural comedy, I would say.
Part of me wonders if it's all an elaborate act with him, because
oh my God.
perfect.
It's so good.
Perfect.
The things that he says are
yeah.
just hilarious.
But yeah, like I can find John Crist funny and I can find Louis C.K. funny.
Yeah.
And they are polar opposites. But
right.
I'm telling you, if you get a chance, it's one of the best hours that Louis done. And it felt like old Louis on his website. It's worth listening to. And then as far as like other specials, if you haven't listened to Shane Gillis's special on YouTube or Big J Okerson.
Oh, Big J.
Yeah, Jay Okerson's special. He's got his new special, Dog Belly, and it was just so funny.
He goes there. That's what he does.
Yes.
He goes
and he
there.
just does it the whole time, sitting on a chair, so calm and collected. And you're just like,
God.
Makes it look easy.
So underrated. So is Louis J. Gomez. And he does a lot of well, he's in the Legion of Skanks with Big J. Yeah. Comedy's so cool.
I could do a whole nother hour just talking about comedy stuff with you. Well, next time.
I know. I'm gonna have to start a comedy podcast now. I'm gonna have 14 podcasts by the time this year's over.
You just start a whole TV network.
That's probably what I should do at some point when I can figure out the technology. That's the biggest thing holding me back.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited for you. So the Untitled Podcast, is that what it's called?
Yeah. Untitled Podcast. I will be dropping my first episode here shortly. I have another podcast that I'm co-hosting on that I'm producing as well, that I'm working on, called Work It Out. It's a guy at my church wrote a book, and it's about his struggle to recover from PTSD after 20 years of service. And he's wrote a book about like the things that he's done to get through it. And he asked me to co-host it with him. So
that's amazing.
I'll be doing some of that stuff too. But yeah, I'm going to be doing some more podcast stuff, and I'm going to try to do one episode a week to start. They'll probably be about an hour long. So I'll, fingers crossed, I'll get it out this week, and I'll stop picking at it and just say it's good. Put it out.
Right. Yeah. Well, send it to me when you do, and I'll share it if you want me to share it, of course. You know, in the beginning, I was like, please don't share this, guys. It's not ready yet.
Maybe give it like 10 minutes and then just see if it's worth sharing. Really, the first episode,
I'll listen to it first. Absolutely.
Yeah. The first episode, I just kind of share with everybody how I got to where I am, because there are a lot of people who know me, and they know Zach Allen, the guy who likes to smoke a lot of pot and eat terrible food and just be a horrible person. And then they see me now, and they're like, that's not the Zach Allen I know. So I kind of have to set the record straight for people and make them understand that I'm not the person who you think I used to be. Like,
yeah.
And
I've had to do the same thing.
Yeah. Cause like that circle of people, like,
yeah,
I'm not for everybody.
I changed people around me. That's for sure.
Yeah. So
awesome. And where can people find you on Instagram?
Yeah, so on Instagram, my handle is Feasting to Fasting, all one word. I will have probably a separate handle for the podcast that'll just be like Untitled the Podcast or something like that, and I'll tag it on there when I actually post an episode. And
awesome.
Instagram's the best place to get in touch with me.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate you coming on again and spending your Sunday evening talking to your computer with me.
Not a
I
problem.
am so excited to listen to your podcast, and yeah, thank you. Great conversation again. So
Thank you.
awesome.
Always a
All
pleasure.
right.
You have a great night.
You too. Bye.